Today's guest is Brad Nelson, who is also a money coach. We talk about the fundamentals we've discussed here on Richer Soul and how people who earn a lot of money may still struggle with their finances. Welcome to Richer Soul, Life Beyond Money, the last baby step. Imagine it's 12 months from now. You've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? What's it like to have great relationships, friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money? To be able to make the choices you want, to be fearless and open to trying new adventures. Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time. Your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. I help people live the life of their dreams and bring balance to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. You can learn how by listening to the framework in episodes 1 through 9. It's simpler than you can imagine. You can also hear actual coaching calls by looking under the coaching call tab on richersoul.com. You'll also find all the show notes for this episode there, and there's a link in this episode. I send out a monthly email, and you can sign up while you're there. In the monthly email, I share the best articles I read this month, let you know about upcoming episodes, and share a little wisdom. I also share the most interesting articles I read on Facebook at facebook.com/Richer Soul. In today's episode, we talk about living life on purpose and how small changes and focused effort can allow us to do just that. A quote from Steve Maraboli: "You were put on this earth to achieve your greatest self, to live out your purpose, and to do it courageously." Today's guest is Brad Nelson, who has dedicated his life to serving and help people with their personal finances. He provides an eye-opening outlook on debt and money that challenges today's popular thinking through speaking, one-on-one coaching, and through his membership site, Roots of Personal Finance. Many people struggle with money and debt. Brad teaches them a simple process to help them learn how to save money and eliminate debt, transforming their future to allow them to live the life they desire. Brad uses his personal story to relate to others. He provides practical steps and advice for a financial plan that shows people how to win and become financially free and kick debt forever. Being debt-free has provided him and Sarah the opportunity to achieve their dreams of operating their business full-time. When Brad isn't helping people with their finances, he loves to continue his education through reading and conferences. He remains active and healthy with intense regular exercise. His family is the most important. They spend a significant amount of time camping and being outdoors. Brad and his wife Sarah put a lot of value in experiences and making memories. Let's meet Brad. Welcome to Richer Soul, Brad Nelson. It's great to have you join us today.
It is awesome to be here, Rocky. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Always the honor. So let's start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
Yeah, that's a good question. And for me, my parents were really good about talking about money in general. They would talk about the fact of you don't want to get in over your head. It's important to pay your bills on time. It's important, obviously, to save for the future. But at the same time they would talk about it, there was also this almost a dirty mindset to money. Like, it's not good to talk about your money in public. They didn't want me to know how much money that they made, and they didn't really share a lot of those details. And they would cover certain things, but only so much. And obviously in school, same thing. I remember getting the little plastic pennies and the quarters and making change and just kind of doing some of those types of things. But more so, it was not really the fundamentals of how to have success with money. It's just more like how money works, how debt works, so on and so forth. And I think for me, the number one thing that I can think about when I was a kid that was drilled into my mind, which took me many years to get over, was my mom always talking about the importance of credit scores. And that's one of the reasons why she always said, you got to make sure you pay your bills on time. Make sure you're always having that credit score, because when you need something, that credit score is really going to help you. And when I was a kid, I really didn't quite understand how it helped you. And as I got to be an adult, that really became my focus as I became an adult, got my first house, and I started accumulating all this stuff, right? I had the really great FICO score. It was awesome. I was super proud of it because my mom told me how important it was. But yet I had all this stuff sitting around me and all these payments, and I didn't have any money. And I remember calling my mom, sitting down. I've just bought my very first house. We did some light renovations to it, and I remember sitting down with my checkbook, and this was back before online banking and everything. I was paying all the bills. I paid all my bills, and all of a sudden, almost all of the money was gone out of the account. And I remember calling my mom, and this was still when I was kind of quote-unquote a mama's boy. You always call your mom and like, is this really how it's supposed to be? And she's like, yeah, this is how we lived our whole entire life. But it's important to make sure that you're paying those bills on time, even if it means that you only have $50 left in that checking account. The most important thing is paying those bills on time. So for me, as a kid, I always remember the importance of the almighty credit score.
So we'll dig into this further, but I like Dave Ramsey's suggestion that the credit score is the sucker score.
Yeah.
Or, the person who wants to borrow money, and that is not going to give you the life you want. It's surprising to see that, it's an acceptance. This is the way life is. We have payments, and we have to make all these payments, and there's nothing left at the end. And that shouldn't be the way life is. I know I made that mistake early on, but it was like right out of college in the first couple years. But I didn't go to the point where there was no money left. I was just like, wait a minute. All these little payments of 30 here, 50 there, 100 there added up pretty quick and are starting to be constricting.
Yep.
No more. We're going to get rid of this stuff. And I did that very quick.
Yeah. I remember having that feeling. I remember I had that feeling too. And at that time, it just didn't seem right. And I didn't know what wasn't right about it, because here I've got my mom, who I really looked up to. She's a great parent. She always took care of us. But at the same time, she's telling me this. But on the other side, I'm like, I don't know how I can be successful with this for my adult life if this is how it's supposed to be. I don't get how it's supposed to work. So I felt very confused and almost shocked to the point like, this is what adult life is going to be like for me. Yeah.
That's called a grind. I guess that kind of kills all dreams and everything, doesn't it?
Right. It sure does, doesn't it? Yeah, it sure does.
It does. So what are you going to do differently for your kids to teach them about money?
Oh, so much. My whole mindset about the credit score and money has completely changed. And it's funny you brought up the name Dave Ramsey. I was working a second job back in my early 20s and had to work that second job to pay all these bills I accumulated. Late at night, I would get out of this. It was a newspaper, and I was a pre-press clerk, and we would do all the films and the negatives and the photo retouches before the paper would run. So we would have to stay until the paper was running, make sure everything was good, and we would get out of the newspaper office there about 1:30 in the morning, sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning. And back then, Dave Ramsey wasn't really a popular guy. I mean, he was on some radio stations, but he wasn't what he is today. And that's the only time he was on the radio, was at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I would drive home. I had a 30-minute commute from this job in the middle of the night, and I would turn this guy on. And I remember him talking about money, and Dave Ramsey was kind of that light bulb going off. This guy's talking about doing things differently. I need to start looking into this. So now, fast forward many, many years later, like 15 to almost 17 years later now, crazy, my whole mindset's changed. So for me, when it comes to our son, Noah, and I just kind of mentioned to you, Rocky, that we've got a newborn on the way, and where we teach them is more about really the three things that you can do with money, which is give, save, and spend. And we don't talk so much about credit and debt. We talk about the negative effects of borrowing money. We don't borrow money to our son. Like if we go to a toy store and he sees something that he wants and he didn't bring his money with, we don't borrow it to him because we don't want to have him get in the habit of, I don't have the money, I'm just going to borrow it from mom and dad, because in the future that becomes MasterCard, Visa, car loan, so on and so forth. So for us right now, we get him in the habit of already starting to budget. He's 8 years old. You get kind of a commission or an allowance for jobs that you do around the house. And with that money, you need to separate it into these 3 separate areas of give, save, spend. So if you're going to give, maybe you're going to a birthday party, you're going to church, whatever you're going to do, you're going to take it out of that and you're going to give some of that money away. If you're going to spend, then you can take some money out of that bank and you can go spend it on whatever you want. And then there's this save. One day you're going to want a car, or one day you're going to go to college. This is for that really big thing that you really want. And at a younger age right now, it's kind of hard for him to determine what a big thing is yet. But when he gets older, he's going to have that money. He's going to understand that savings takes time. So we're really kind of implementing those things and really kind of instilling some of these thoughts in him right now. And we are certainly talking to him about it when we go to the stores and stuff. You go to the stores, it's not uncommon to spend a day stopping at some different stores. I mean, to get offered 3 or 4 different credit cards. And it's always important for him to hear me say, no, we don't use debt. And sometimes he'll kind of catch us and he'll be like, you can't use your credit card, Dad. And I'm like, tell him, it's like, no, this is a debit card. This has real money in the bank. So we kind of talk about some of those things, and we bring him to the bank with money and we say, hey, here's our money. We're going to put it into the bank so that way when we use our debit card, it pulls this money out. We're not borrowing this from anybody else. And it's been amazing how much of this he's gotten. The stuff he writes about in school as it relates to money and how important it is for him to save. And being 8 years old, I mean, he's much further along than I ever was, even as an 18-year-old. So I'm pretty proud of him.
That is very cool. We did a lot of the same thing. We used the 3 buckets as well. And we started our kids when they were relatively young. And then we started having those conversations. And we continued to have them over and over again. And over time, that money does grow. They learn delayed gratification. You're setting their mindsets correctly at an early age. And that's extremely important because he's right in that age where all of our money mindsets are created. Absolutely. And if you screw them up, then you have lots of problems. But, for him, he's just going to be like, yeah, I don't go into debt. That's just my way of life. Absolutely. And it's totally changing the way his life will end up. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Cool. And one of the coolest things we're going to be able to do for him, and since we're debt free, we put a little bit of money aside for him in an investment account. And the goal is obviously to get him to the point where he's able to handle a blessing like that when he gets to the age where he's going to be able to get that money. And that's going to be another teaching point for him to understand that, hey, we've been saving this money since you were just a wee little kid. And now you got to start doing this because one day you're going to retire and that money is going to grow just like this did. So we're very excited about it. It's been really cool to see what he's learned, and not really just so much from what we taught him verbally, but also just by him watching us and our behavior with money for sure.
So I say this all the time. Kids don't listen to what you say. Yeah. They listen to what you do. And
absolutely.
It's clear that you are doing the doing part.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much truth to that. And one thing I do share with a lot of our clients and stuff too, and even us, it's like we never use the words we're broke. We always use the words it's not in the plan, it's not in the budget, to make sure that he knows that we're making these decisions on purpose. The money's not deciding for us because we aren't controlling it. We're controlling what we decide to spend our money on. So we're always very careful the language that we use around him as well.
And that's also very important. You don't want to create a scarcity mindset. You want to make sure that you have an abundance mindset. And so the words you use and the way you say things definitely can dramatically shift that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you help people. You've kind of changed your life. And I think the way you phrase it is purpose-driven life. Is that correct?
Yeah, for me, yeah, very much so.
So how did this come about and what is it all about?
Yeah. Kind of going back to that story of me sitting in that first house I was buying, that's when it kind of struck me that this isn't how life is really supposed to be. And I wasn't really quite sure how it was supposed to be just yet, but that's kind of when the idea popped in my head, like, what am I supposed to be doing? What is this I can't imagine I'm supposed to just spend the rest of my life like everyone else is, that I found out eventually that everyone else is just spending all their time making payments and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I spent much of my years in my 20s and even in my early 30s, I was a sales manager at a local sign shop here, and I really enjoyed that job. I went to school for graphic design, really enjoyed the creative side of that, and ever since I was little, I always wanted to run my own business. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted. I remember running car washes in my mom and dad's front yard or lemonade stands, and always looking. We tried to build a roller rink in our basement, all these things to try to make money. I was always fascinated with running a business that would make money. And as I mentioned, I got hooked onto Dave Ramsey, all these other kind of big personal finance experts, and I started reading books and learning about this stuff. And I realized finally, okay, if I ever want to have a chance at least to do something that I like to do, because what I was currently doing was okay. The job was good, but it just didn't fit me anymore. But I realized it was if I really want to do something, I've got to get these finances under control. And I didn't really realize that. I got to thank my son, because we just talked about him. I didn't really start going after this really hardcore until we had my son Noah. And he's the one who kind of really kicked me into gear. I got to figure this out for me, and I also got to figure it out for him. And during the process of getting out of debt, and during the process of starting to think differently about this money stuff, of what common society thinks about this, something really started to change in me. And I started reading a lot more self-development books and started kind of turning away from more of kind of the personal finance, because, I kind of was learning everything already. I just needed to do it now. I knew what to do. I just needed to do it. But from a professional standpoint or a professional development standpoint, I started sticking my nose into some of these books, and we started talking about why or purpose and passion and those types of things. And I really started to kind of fine-tune that why or purpose over several years, and started to figure out that I really enjoyed helping and serving people. And not just in one capacity, but to many capacities. I served and helped my family. I served and helped the business that I was working with. I served and helped my friends outside of those businesses or outside of my family. It was just something that I always truly enjoyed. I always liked to share the success that I've had and to help other people. And as we finally got out of debt, which took me a good 4 to 5 years to finally get completely debt-free, I started to have a lot of people start to ask me about this. And how did you do it? I'm suffering from living paycheck to paycheck. I don't have any money saved. I see you did all of this. How did you do it? Can you help me? And at first, I just kind of gave some advice, but then eventually I kind of started thinking, I really like helping people. It's like I'm taking all of this knowledge that I learned, and now I'm just giving it to other people to have success with their life. And I really love to see it. And the very first person that I saw all of the success come together was with my wife before we had gotten married. I had a first marriage that didn't work out, and a lot of it had to do with money. And that's where Noah came from, was that first marriage. So that was the blessing and all of that. But my second wife I married, we got together, and we both were experiencing this issue with debt. And at this time, her more so than me, because I was working for quite a while. And I remember her coming to my house one night, late at night, and her just having this absolute look of defeat. She had this big pile of paperwork with her, and she comes into my house and she's like, Brian, I just can't do this anymore. I can't keep up with these bills. I'm behind. Collections is calling. What am I supposed to do? And I took all the information that I learned over the years, and I sat her down. I started talking about some of this and started talking about the behaviors with money and all of that. And I worked with her for 11 straight months, and I helped her pay off over $30,000 in those 11 months, becoming completely debt-free. And I saw this not necessarily because she was my girlfriend and my fiance eventually, but I saw this change in her as a person. The stress was lifted off of her. There was hope in her life. There was direction. She started to think about, I don't have to work at this job anymore. I can do what I want. I can maybe go further my education. Maybe I can go do something else that I never even dreamed of doing before. And it was just awesome to see. And ever since then, that's kind of been what I've been wanting to do and where my focus went. I started to really focus on helping people get out of debt and save money and really teach them just kind of the basic foundational principles that I was missing when I was in my 20s and trying to figure this stuff out. And it's one of the best parts of my job to see people have the success that they do just from teaching them some of this information. So that's where a lot of it kind of developed on its own. I can't tell you, Rocky, that I knew all of this was going to work out right in the beginning. It kind of, I started working on my own stuff. I started realizing, this is going to change my life. It helped my wife change her life. And it was like this realization that I could really help other people out there that are suffering, but not only suffering, but people that are suffering and really, truly want some help and assistance. Because I've learned, obviously, as a coach, that there's people out there that they'll play the victim role. They want the help, but they're not going to do the work. I love helping the people that are like, yep, I'm ready for a change. I need to do something different. Show me the way. And then we get to work. And that's awesome.
So what percent of the people are willing to do the work?
I wish more. Not as many. I would say of all of the people that we have come through, I would say we're probably at 20% that really give it their all. The ones that are willing to sacrifice, the ones that are willing to let their opinions go, let the way they were taught about money go, and really just kind of let their guard down and say, you know what, Brad's really trying to just help me. He's not going to hurt me here, and he's going to show me what worked for him, and I'm just going to try it this way. And I would say 20% of them are willing to really kind of give it everything. And then we probably have another 10, maybe 15% of them that are willing to give a little bit, but they're still on the fence, right? They're kind of like me when I got out of debt. You know, it took me a while, attempts at this to get it right, you know, because you always get kind of sucked back into what society says. And we've got those people then. They're kind of on the fence. Like, is Brad really serious about this whole, really credit scores aren't that important? Is he really serious? Like, you can live without debt? You know, they haven't hit that kind of aha moment. Yeah, we can totally do this, right? I would say about 20% are the hardcore ones for sure.
That's honestly, that's a pretty good number. You may not think so, but it's actually good. I mean, most people don't take action, and that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And that's something we talk about a lot in Roots is like, it's like, look, even if you did half of the stuff that I'm showing you right now, you're going to be in a much better position, but you got to do something. You're not going to change if you don't do something different. You got to take that action like you just said, for sure.
That's absolutely true. And, when you have financial freedom, it just opens up so many possibilities in life. You can go do anything you choose then because you have the ability to make that choice. And that's literally what financial freedom's about, is the ability to go and live with purpose and be able to say yes to the things you want to say yes to and no to the things that you don't want to do. And it gets rid of all that stress and all that anxiety and all of those kinds of problems.
Yeah. It's almost like a spiritual happening that happens when you become debt free. And I try to take this passion inside of me. I try to take this change inside of me and bring it out in my voice and to teach people and to show people this, whether we're doing public speaking or we're doing classes or courses. And it's like, I just wish I could show you everything that I've seen and all of the changes that have happened in my life, and you would just see it. But you're right. It's like, it's all about the opportunity. Wealth is great, money is great, but opportunity is, I think, one of the biggest things that people give up. Well, it is the biggest thing that people give up when they go into debt. It's that future opportunity. I just had a client recently reach out to me and they say, I've got a young child at home, but I've got a car payment, I've got this credit card debt, and I can't afford to stay home with this child. And they lost out on an opportunity to possibly spend those young years with their child and stay home and work from home and be with that child for those couple of years because of those past choices. So I think, that opportunity is the silent killer, I think, for most people that most people don't see. A lot of people are focused on the stuff like the car and the clothes or the furniture they're buying or the house or whatever it might be. But they're not thinking about that opportunity that they're losing because they're committing to those payments.
Absolutely. And now she's stuck paying for daycare on top of that. So she's got another penalty.
Absolutely. Yep. And it just keeps adding up and adding up and adding up. Yep. Absolutely.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it is. We're going to give her some help. So hopefully we can kind of move some things around. Hopefully it won't be as painful for her. And that's what, obviously us as coaches do. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I think most people need to realize when they go into debt. It's not so much, the interest is terrible. Payments are terrible. Debt is terrible that you owe somebody. I get all that, but it's the missed opportunity in your life because now you're committed to some of that stuff for so long.
Well, yeah, you're selling your future for something you forget about today that you buy that has no intrinsic value, essentially, which is a massive shame.
Right.
So, what point do most of these people say, I want to make change? Do they have to hit bottom, or are they willing to change sooner?
So in some cases they don't, but in a lot of cases, yeah, I think their situation sometimes has to get so uncomfortable, it's going to be actually more comfortable for them to change than to stay where they're at. And I talk to a lot of people in that situation. And unfortunately, when people get that far down the road, sometimes it's like, if you would have just asked for help or reached out 6 months ago or even a year ago, because now, I like to call it the squirrel effect, these people that reach rock bottom. Or if you're from Wisconsin, where I'm from, it's kind of like the deer effect. You got that deer in the headlights or that squirrel. You're driving down the street. The squirrel comes out in the middle of the street. When it sees you and you see it, the squirrel goes left, the squirrel goes right, the squirrel goes left, but it doesn't ever make a decision. And unfortunately, sometimes the squirrel gets squished. And it's the same thing with deer up here in Wisconsin. You get those deer in your headlights and they just freeze. And that's kind of what I see a lot of people doing when they get themselves in over their head when it comes to finances, is that they literally just freeze. They can't make a decision to change. They can't make a decision not to change. I mean, it's just, they just do nothing, and they kind of stick their head in the sand, and the situation just gets worse and worse and worse. The wonderful thing is, though, is that those people that I have had come in and they are rock bottom, many of them have done very, very well. And their win isn't necessarily that I paid off thousands of dollars in debt or I saved thousands of dollars, but their wins are, I've got a plan. I know what's going on with my money. I have everything paid finally. I'm no longer behind on anything. And it's a step-by-step process. I've got one Roots member who finally just paid off their very first debt, and they've been in our program for a year. But her win all of this year was just getting back to current, getting rid of overdraft fees, and really kind of getting on a plan with their finances. So, it's a mixture of both as far as who has the most success there, for sure.
Just out of curiosity, once people have financial success, do you see other success in their life?
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, I think the biggest one is, and this is me, and I talk about this a lot and people don't believe me, but is the fact that they get more money. And it's like, whether you're kind of a universe person or if you're a Christian, you believe in a God of some sort, but it's like, whatever you believe, whatever that is for you, it starts to realize that, hey, you got your act together, you know what you're doing, we're going to give you more of it because now you're managing more of it. And I see it all the time. It happened in my own life. It's happened in my Roots and Personal Finance members' lives, where all of a sudden they just start getting pay raises because they're much more attentive at work and they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're not so worried about their finances. I get people that get promotions or different jobs that pay them more money. And I see all of this stuff change. The other big change I see in many of them is from a couple standpoint or relationship standpoint is a difference in their marriages. And I have many people talk to me about that. Before I joined your membership site, finances were just a tough topic. We didn't talk about it. We weren't on the same page. This person was spending money and this person was doing what they wanted, and things were just a mess. And we just didn't know we were supposed to talk about this. We didn't know what to talk about. All we kept doing was kind of pointing the finger at each other when things went wrong. So it's just that improvement in communication and that teamwork of, hey, let's get a plan together. What are our goals? And let's help each other to get to those goals. That's another huge change that I see in a lot of people. And then obviously the third one, I think the best one, is the confidence and the stress that come. The confidence, obviously, but the stress that goes away. Huge confidence in moving forward in their lives, understanding what they should be doing with their money, understanding how they can be successful in the future. Once they pay off their debt, what are those next steps and what do they need to do? And then obviously knowing what they need to do and having a plan for their money, a lot of that stress that they have, a lot of that just completely melts away. I read a statistic, I think it was the American Psychology Association or Psychological Association, said that one of the number one things that people worry about here in the United States is finances. So one would think that, if you work on this stuff and get a plan put together, that number one worry is going to go down the list quite a bit. So
absolutely. You have to be intentional. And it's really not that difficult. It's, most of the knowledge is pretty basic. You just have to take action and start moving forward. And that's
absolutely.
the harder part. So just out of curiosity, when we say debt-free, does that include paying off the mortgage?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm kind of like, I kind of side with Dave Ramsey and the David Box out there. And even I think Susie Orman, I don't know where she stands specifically, but the big personal finance people. I'm not completely against mortgages. I think as long as you're smart in your home purchase, I think that's the most important part. You know, some of these mortgage products that are out there, and it's not necessarily even just the mortgage products, even if we go that far, but it's just having people set up to be ready to buy a home. You know, I think that's where a lot of people struggle. You know, a lot of people come to me and say, Brad, I want to buy a home. And before we even talk about the house, I want to talk about what you currently got. What's your debt look like? Do you have an emergency fund set up? What are you going to do to repair things? And by the time we're done with the conversation, we don't even have to talk about the home because they already know the answer. They're just not ready. And when it comes to being debt-free, I consider people being debt-free outside of their home. But obviously, the ultimate goal would be debt-free, including your home as well.
And you even have people who make six-figure salaries going through your program.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the I wasn't shocked by it because I knew it. I got very close to the six-figure mark before I got out of debt. And I had the same problems many other people did. It's not how much money you make, it's what you do with the money that you make that really matters. So I wasn't shocked to see that we were going to have people coming through. We've had people make well over $200,000 that have come through Roots. And a lot of them have the same exact problems that people who make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. They might have a nicer wrapper. They might have nicer things, nicer cars, maybe a nicer house, things like that. And the whole grand scheme of things, you know, their bank accounts and what they're doing with their money, a lot of it is pretty similar. Neither one is really more successful than the other. And I actually have a financial coach that I'm really good friends with as part of my mastermind group. And she works out and she's out in the LA area. So she works with people who make huge salaries. We're talking, you know, seven figures. And she deals with a lot of this same type of stuff too, with people who make $100,000, $50,000, and it's the same thing. So that really didn't shock me. But I think what people need to understand is that, again, if you make a high income, you can still be very broke in a sense. You know, you make great money, but what happens if all of a sudden that money gets shut off? Things get pretty scary pretty quickly.
Well, there are a lot of these people who make seven figures who spend eight figures. That's all it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm making a lot of money. I can spend it.
Yeah.
You know, and the next thing you know, they're broke. So
Yep.
I think that's the biggest thing, is to create the gap between spending and saving. And as long as you can create the gap and keep the gap, then it doesn't really matter. You can spend more, but keep a big gap in there.
Yeah, right.
So That's interesting. So you said you're part of a mastermind.
Yeah, absolutely.
How has that helped you?
Well, it's helped me tremendously. I think one of the coolest things is getting together with people who are like-minded. And especially in today's society, me speaking about being debt-free, and just like you kind of said, Rocky, about FICO scores and things like that. I mean, that's not popular thinking right now. And I think the mastermind group really gives me an opportunity to reconnect with like-minded people. Because you can kind of feel like sometimes like you're on an island, you know, even in Roots, you kind of, you know, teaching everybody and showing everybody. But sometimes you can kind of feel like you're the weird one, right? So the mastermind group, which there's nothing wrong with being weird. I love that. But you can kind of feel like you're on that island. So that mastermind group gives you that opportunity to get in that rowboat and go over to somebody else's island and hang out for a little while. So I think what they've helped me out with the most is obviously fine-tuning my coaching. I've had a lot of them go through a lot of the content that I've produced and to say, hey, go through this. Are you good with it? Obviously, I want to make sure this is going to help people. What do you think? I want other coaches, other people who have financial success, maybe even more so than me, to go through this and say, yeah, Brad, you're on the right track. This is going to help people. So that's been very beneficial. And then, like I said, for me to be able to help and serve other people, I've had some great success with our business. And the financial coaching industry, a lot of people don't do financial coaching all by itself full time like I do. So it's been awesome to be able to help other financial coaches out there because, I mean, there's over 25 million. I mean, there's millions of people here in the U.S. There's plenty of people that need help. I enjoy helping them and saying, hey, yeah, this worked for me, but this didn't, because at the end of the day, people need help. There's people out there that genuinely need this help. And I know a lot of these coaches have good hearts and they're just like me and all they want to do is help people. I think that's been a really cool part of the mastermind as well, is really being able to help others just as much as they've helped me.
That's very cool. Well, we'll chat about that more after the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
honestly, what you're doing is you're essentially creating a tribe. So you've created a tribe for people who are struggling and put them into a group so that they have like-minded people who are going through the process, learning how to overcome their issues and working together. And so they're looking around at the people around them going, okay, I see people having success. I see this works. I feel like I can have success too. And then you're working within your tribe doing the same kind of thing of, yes, this is successful. This is so, everyone's got to find the tribe of where they're at today and continue to grow. After a while, you may graduate from a particular tribe and need to go find a new tribe of people to take you to that next step. And that's what it is. As iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another, but you've got to accept the sharpening.
Yep.
That's what your group does, and that's what masterminds do, and that's what coaches do, is they help you see the things that you haven't seen. They help you because they've walked through some of these mistakes. They see the pitfalls that we're kind of blinded to, and they help us safely get ahead without having to pay the price of the mistakes that we're essentially going to make if we don't have help.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the problems. People are probably kind of on a twofold. One, because you mentioned that with your mother, people don't want to talk about money. And then the other is people are afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is per se. Maybe you've got some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would say that's probably, as a financial coach and, running my own business and trying to get people help, I would say that's the biggest challenge is trying to figure out what takes people so long to actually reach out and do something. And we talked a little bit about that before, but, I've got people in, I call it our database or our system. We do coaching event, or speaking events, or, we'll give out freebies through our website and things like that. And people will sign up for it. And, I'll go back and look at their history a little bit once they sign up for Roots and kind of figure out, okay, when did they get in our system? And when did they start receiving emails? When did they start getting some of this stuff? And how long did it take them? And some of these people, it's taken 18 months to finally do something. I've had many people come up to me and say, Brad, I heard you speak a year ago and you were right on with everything. Everything that you said was my life. And I knew I needed this, but I didn't act. When I ask the question of, well, why didn't you act then? It's typically time is the biggest excuse that I think I get is I just didn't have the time to do it. I always teach people, and people may think I'm crazy in Roots Personal Finance and outside of this, but it's like, you got to give the same importance to your finances as you do eating, drinking, and sleeping. Not that money needs to be the most important thing, but it's what having control over your money is going to allow you to do. I tell people that it's like, look, if time is an issue, you need to give up other stuff because you're going to be broke and you're going to continue to be broken. And more than likely, if you're like many other people, it's only going to get worse. Now is the opportunity to say, okay, let me look at my life. What am I spending my time on? And what can I ditch so that way I can add in personal finance education and coaching and get me to where I want to go? It's just like someone who wants to lose weight and get healthy. It's like, if you can't find time for that, someone's got to go or someone's got to give, because things aren't going to get any better for you if you don't make any changes.
I spend more time exercising than I do on my money.
I'm with you. I totally agree. So I do as well.
It's not, it takes time, but it's not that hard.
It's not. And I think initially, as you get started, there is time invested. Like, say a Roots Personal Finance member comes into our course and our membership site. The first 8 weeks, if they stick with everything the first 8 weeks and they do everything in those first 8 weeks, they're spending a good 2 to 3 hours a week on their finances. But I got to tell you, I probably spend maybe 2 to 3 hours working on my finances a month now, because the plan just works. I know what we're putting our money into. I know where we're investing it. I know where we're saving it. And it's nowadays with technology, it's just a click of a few buttons. You're just checking up on things, balancing your budget, making sure you're on track, and you're done. But, when things are really out of control, you may be in collections. You may be wondering what's being poured on your credit report. All of this stuff is going on. That's going to take some time to get through. But that's kind of that initial investment you got to make. Every day you do it, it gets easier and easier and easier.
That's true with anything in life. When you first start out with whatever you want to do new in life or whatever you want to change, it's very hard in the beginning. And then over time, it becomes easier and easier and easier. It's probably not hard for someone to ride a bicycle today if they know how to ride a bicycle. It was really hard when they were 5 years old, though, you know?
Yeah.
And now it's just like second nature. You don't even think about it. You know, you're texting and riding the bike down the street, crashing into cars.
Right.
This is true for all parts of life. You have to put the time in. You've got to create the space. You've got to figure out what you want out of life. And then learn how to do that. And then be purposeful and go out and do it. I've become really surprised at how small the difference is and how little is involved once you put a little bit of effort in to great success. There is not this massive mountain, so to speak, to really climb. It just happens over time. It's not that difficult.
It isn't. Yep. But, what do you think about this, Rocky? The stuff isn't difficult, but would you agree that it's not always stuff that you want to do, but you do it anyways, right?
Absolutely. It's overcoming ourselves. You have to create the other side of the balance of the equation. Do I want to deal with this now? No. But if I don't deal with this now, I'm going to have 10 times more to deal with tomorrow.
Right.
Do I want 10 times more to deal with tomorrow? No. Then I better just do this now. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, there used to be a saying, I don't hear it anymore, a stitch in time saves 9. And that's when people, used to go back and sew. But if you did it when the problem first occurred and you did the stitch, you wouldn't have to sew the whole thing back up. Unfortunately, I think today everyone just prefers to put a Band-Aid over things and they don't heal. You've got to actually be intentional, be purposeful, put the effort in, and it's not a tremendous amount of effort. And you will see dramatic differences over time. It's not that hard. When you don't have a mortgage, you have tons of cash flow. You can go do whatever you want. You can enjoy life and go on vacations and quit your job and you do whatever you please. It's a wonderful place to be.
It certainly is. It certainly is. And one thing I always share with our audience is, a lot of people kind of, they say, oh, Brad, you may have just kind of like this special DNA or you just really like this money stuff. I do. I enjoy it. I enjoy helping people. But at the same time, it's like, I would love to do a million other things than to sit down before the month begins and write out my monthly budget and put it all together, right? I would love to be able to do other things, but I do it anyways because I know doing that over the last 10 years, 12 years now, what that's done and how it's transformed my life. But you're right. It's not so much the effort. It's just getting over that resistance factor. I'll just do it tomorrow. Nope. Just do it today. Just choose today. Just do it. Your finances will thank you. They certainly will.
It's funny. I was just reading a book that talked about the resistance. Literally comes down to you've got to make it easy. So in this thing, I think the guy was talking about playing his guitar and he said, I want to play my guitar, but he would never do it. That's because his guitar was in a case in the closet. The moment he took the guitar out of the case and put it on a stand next to the couch, he started playing guitar because it was right there. It's the same thing for going to the gym. If you want to go to the gym and you never go to the gym, you never go to the gym. If you put your clothes out next to your bed with your sneakers, essentially ready to go in the morning, where you roll out of bed and go, okay, sneakers, clothes, going to the gym, and you make it through the resistance, you're much more likely to actually enjoy yourself at the gym and to do more and to continue to build that habit. It's amazing how very, very small things prevent us from taking action. And if you can get rid of all those little resistances, then you have success. And that's where accountability comes in. If you have an accountability partner, they help you to overcome the resistance. for whatever it is you want to do in life. It doesn't matter whether it's health or wealth or anything. You've got to break through the resistance and get to moving. So whatever you can do to remove that resistance, do it.
Absolutely. Yep. Couldn't agree more with that.
So is there anything else that we should talk about that we haven't covered yet today?
If you've got friends or family out there, I mean, I think one of the number one things that people need to understand is that there are people out there willing to help people with their personal finances. It was difficult for me to find people locally. It still kind of is that help people with their personal finances. There's plenty of obviously investment advisors and tax professionals and realtors and all of those people that can help you with those things, but really kind of coming up with everything that we're talking about here today. But there are people out there. This isn't something that you got to do on your own. You talked about, I think, one of the number one pieces of the puzzle that a lot of people are missing is accountability. We talked about the mastermind group that I'm a part of, and that holds me accountable. I go to that mastermind group, we talk about things that we're going to do, and I know that next meeting, they're going to ask me about it. That holds me accountable in my business to doing the things that I said I was going to do. And it's no different when you hire a coach, even a financial coach. That's that accountability factor of kind of like what you said, Rocky, going to the gym. I know my friend was going to go to the gym, and if I don't show up and they're there, they're going to get pretty upset with me, or they're going to hold me accountable. Why didn't you show up? And a financial coach is really no different, especially it's super important starting out early on and really kind of retraining your brain and how you think about money, how you behave with money, and really kind of formulating what that ultimate goal looks like for you. I don't think we really talked about it too much here yet, Rocky, but just the idea of retirement numbers and what is the ultimate retirement number. And I think it's that number is different for everybody. And I think if most people would just take the time to kind of just, what do I want my life to look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now when I retire? It doesn't have to be perfectly figured out, but having that kind of painted picture is also what I think can help you push through some of that resistance too. Because if you can say, you know what, when I get out of debt, when I have my finances where I want them, I'm going to be able to travel more. I'm going to be able to stay home with my kids, or I'm going to be able to get that different job, or I'm going to be able to start my own business, whatever it might be. If you can paint that picture of what you want your life to look like, and you can start to develop your own wire purpose, getting through your finances and getting things straightened out is going to be a heck of a lot easier than just saying, I'm just going to do this just to do it. You got to put some meat behind it. And if you put some meat behind it, you're going to see that you're going to have a lot more success. But a financial coach is kind of like giving you a bunch of gas to throw on that fire and to really get that thing hot. So that way you can reach your goals and get to where you want to go.
Absolutely. Having the help is definitely good. And the accountability and pushing people forward. Just out of curiosity, did you go through a program or did you use something to help you figure out what your purpose was?
No, I didn't. I actually read a lot of books, just a lot of professional self-development books, and just kind of, and even sometimes not even reading. It's kind of that quiet time I talk about, and I talk to people about this in Roots, and that's a really weird time for people, especially if they've just started doing it. Maybe their life isn't exactly where you want it to be. A lot of people don't like just to sit still because they don't want to think about all the stuff that they got to take care of and all the things that they got to fix and all the things that they got to work on. But I found that time extremely valuable to me. I remember when I was working my full-time job, I would get up sometimes at 3:30 in the morning to read and really just to sit and be quiet and really kind of think about what I wanted in my life. I wouldn't trade those mornings for the world. I was tired throughout the day, but taking that time to really kind of think about what really kind of my soul was telling me, or what it was that I wanted to do, I think is so important. And I think in today's society, we make ourselves so busy, especially if you got kids, you're running here, you're running there. We don't allow ourselves that time to really kind of sit still and be quiet and really kind of think about how we feel. Is what I'm doing what I want to do? And if it's not, what is it that I want to do? Going through some of these self-development books, I know one for me was a really, really good one. One of my favorite books is called The Rhythm of Life by Matthew Kelly, which was really, really good. I've heard Matthew Kelly speak live. He's just a great speaker. He's an awesome guy. That book really helped me, but it's going through, a book is great. You read it, but they give you tools in these books, like things that you should do. Some of the things we do in Roots now, I ask people this when they're going through our behavior lesson. And this might sound a little morbid, but if you were to die today, what would you want people to remember you for? Or if you were to die today, what would be some of the regrets that you would have in your life? A lot of these self-development books are going to provide you some of these tools. So, don't just read them, but really go through those books and take out some of those things and really think about them. Sometimes that can be more valuable, answering those questions, than reading the entire book. That's what really kind of helped me for sure.
My eulogy is written as part of my life plan. I think every morning, depending on how busy the morning is, I have a lot of quiet time.
Yeah.
To be able to think through just life and to express gratitude and to be thankful and to just sit in the moment. I try and at least plan out 30 minutes, if not more, in the morning to do that. So that means creating the space and creating the environment where you have the ability to do that kind of stuff. It's important because if you don't think about it, then you're stuck following the path that someone else picked and you're in a drift, and one day you may hit a waterfall.
Yeah.
And it may not be the one you wanted, or you may end up in a place that you're no longer happy and or full of regrets, and that's a shame. Being intentional, purposeful, knowing where you're going, taking the time to think it out and do it is very important.
Yep, absolutely. One thing you mentioned there, Rocky, was so important for any great financial plan is the gratitude, is taking that time to not so much focus on all of the material possessions that you don't have, but think about all the things that you do have. That focus change for me was life-changing. So much of my focus has now been taken off of consuming stuff and more providing value to people's lives. I don't need stuff to do that. I don't need stuff to make me happy because I've found the things that make me happy. Like you said, it's this quiet time. It's the sitting still. It's working on some of this stuff. Even when it's hard and you feel like you're not getting anywhere, it is so valuable. It is so valuable.
I totally agree with you. And I think people need to just take the time to do it and make it happen. Hopefully they will. And we've encouraged them to do so. If people want to reach out and connect with you, learn a little bit more about what you're doing, what's the best way for them to find you?
Our website is definitely a great resource. You can just go to balancedsense.com. Another resource is we've got a Facebook group page, and we also have a regular business Facebook page. You can most certainly reach us out there. Just search Balanced Sense in Facebook, and then our Facebook group page is there. We've actually created a group with all the changes that Facebook has made. We created this group pretty quickly. They made some big changes to their algorithms and all that stuff. So we wanted to make sure we stay connected to our audience. And this group's been fabulous. We've got pretty close. We're pushing almost pretty close to 900, maybe 1,000 members now. And that group's really active. If you got someone, if you yourself is looking for some help, looking for some guidance, there's definitely some free resources on our website. Go to our Facebook page. Obviously, Roots of Personal Finance is there for you as well. You can find that link on our website, and that'll go through over all the details of our membership site, what we offer. We've got a pretty great blog site as well that offers really good just general help on lots of different topics that we cover. So those are some really, really great ways that you can connect with us. And obviously, you can find our email right on our website. You can send us an email if you've got specific questions. We'd be more than happy to help.
That's cool. Thank you for sharing. And I know a lot of people who listen to the show are financially successful, but each and every one of them is surrounded by people who may be friends or family or coworkers or whatever that have a financial mess in their life. And
absolutely,
you may not want to deal with it, so refer them to someone who will.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd appreciate it.
Very cool. Well, it was great chatting today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Rocky. It's been awesome. Love what you're doing here.
Thanks. I really enjoyed the conversation with Brad. Wherever you are on your journey, we all have to go through the same steps. Being part of a mastermind or having a coach or mentor allows you to do that faster and with less mistakes. Today's action step, answer that question. What do you want to be remembered for? As we learned today, it's harder to keep wealth than it is to make it. Once you come up with a system to create wealth, you need to come up with a system to keep it. If you'd like a second opinion on your financial plans or are worried you're missing out on something, check out the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats at richersoul.com/SWOT. Is there someone you know who could benefit from what we talked about today? Please share the episode as it helps you to build social capital and create better relationships and start better conversations with the people you know. They'll appreciate you for it. What's preventing you from moving forward? And who are you putting on your team to help you build the life you deserve? Taking no action creates a far worse outcome in life than trying something and failing. Can I help you achieve your goals? Just email me and we can start with a short chat to see if we are a good fit for each other. Thanks for listening. You can always get me at rocky@richersoul.com. I'd love to hear how you're doing and how the information I've shared has helped you. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week.